Hi, good morning. Welcome to, well, good afternoon, I suppose, really. Welcome to the Old Geezer Show on Tuesday, the 17th of January 2023. Got a new show for you today with a lot of new interesting comment. The most immediate bit of news is, I don't know if you're listening to this man, Ken Bruce, who was on Radio 2 earlier this morning, and he was talking about retiring from BBC Radio 2, but he's actually said he's leaving and he's going to do something else. Now, Ken Bruce is actually 70 years old, 6 years younger than me, for goodness sake, and he is quitting anyway and going to do something else starting in March. It will be interesting to see what happens. Primarily, from my point of view, I have to say to you, primarily, one of the issues with Ken, I think, from my point of view, is that he has been on there so long, and the BBC tend to stick with their presenters for, I think, an incredibly long time. And I find it a bit kind of OTT. I don't know what you think. Tell me what you think. Do you like Ken? Do you want him to continue forever and a day on the mighty BBC? Personally, as I say, I don't. I'm glad he's going. I think it would do with a new refresh. And the same thing applies to most of their presenters, actually. Jeremy Vine seems to have a permanent niche on Radio 2, as does as does the lovely Alex Jones on The One Show on BBC One TV. I think they have too long a lifespan and maybe they need a change. Tell me what you think. I would love to know what you think. Okay, let's now move on and get into the content that we had planned for this show. And the first thing I want to talk about is this man, and this is the lovely Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, and he's now talking about the NHS. And what's he talking about with the NHS? He is talking about the Labour Party wanting to, I don't know what you say, review and reform the NHS. I'm not very convinced about this kind of thing unless they give more details. I do think the Labour Party need to get into power effectively to kind of kill off some of this ongoing tosh that we're getting from the mighty Tories who've just been in the seat too long. But what are Labour talking about doing? I would love to know what they're talking about doing, if only they would say so. Well, we need to do this and we need to do that. And I think we would like to see a change in the way the NHS is run, but we need to see it done properly and done effectively over a reasonable period of time. There you go. What else have we got? Well, I've got something that's interesting. I'm quite keen on looking at some of the groups and organisations that work to help and improve the lives of old people or older people. And the Centre for Ageing Better is an organisation that I found really quite interesting. This is something that they do. They actually publish some interesting information that you don't really see anywhere else. This is one that caught my eye, but the one I want to talk about really is this one. The proportion of older people who use the internet regularly has grown rapidly, but there are still over 3 million people aged 55 and over who have never used the internet. And I want to go on to this in another way. One of the things that bugs me all the time as an individual, I have to say, is digital exclusion. And when we're talking about digital exclusion, we're talking about the areas in life in which you cannot actually take part anymore, or which you don't get as good service if you are not online on the internet. If you're not online on the internet, you may have serious problems in actually getting hold of the kind of stuff that you need to know about. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about banking. We're talking about communication with local authorities. We're talking about all of that kind of thing where people or organisations are increasingly putting up signs that say, oh, you can get in touch with us by this and you can get in touch with us by that, but you can't phone us and you can't write to us because we're not telling you anything. All they give you is a web address, and it's not only bad news generally, it's bad news insofar as you can't really track people down so much. I have a problem with, in inverted commas, maybe not, I don't know. I have a problem with people's, with trusting people, if you like, and saying, do you believe this company is going to do this, that, and the other for you? You get in touch with that company and they never come back to you. And you think, well, thank God I didn't spend any money with them, because they might have taken it and run away, because I don't know where to go to find them. Okay, internet digital exclusion. But there's another aspect of digital exclusion that is equally worrying, I think, and it's this one. Local authority, my home local authority in East Suffolk, they have a tariff stuck up there at their car park. They have a cash machine there, so you can buy your ticket on the spot immediately, which is really nice. But you cannot buy any of their other offers, like a long-term ticket. If you come down every week and you want to maybe stay a couple of times a week for a longer period, you cannot buy a long-term ticket other than through on your smartphone. Now, I know there are a lot of older people who have phones, but they're not necessarily very smartphones, and they don't necessarily know how to use them. Now, my partner Dot has got a smartphone, but in reality, she doesn't really know how to use it. So that's another example, if you like, of digital exclusion. It's an interesting one, and to be honest with you, I think it's a worrying one. Okay, what's next? On Thursday this week, we are going to, I hope, be in London to report live to you on this one. This is a protest that's happening on Thursday at 11:30 a.m. at the George V statue opposite Old Palace Yard at Westminster, right opposite the Palace of Westminster. And it's going to involve a stroll down towards Downing Street and handing in a petition and doing a little demo. Now, I think this is a worthwhile one because people are dying, and people are dying who shouldn't be dying. Scary, nasty, unfriendly, unpleasant. We really need to look at this one and look at it quite hard. If you can get along on Thursday, do. I'd love to see you there. And if you don't get along on Thursday, I will be there and reporting. Okay, that kind of takes us to most of the places we wanted to go. We've been and looked at digital exclusion. We've had a look at Ken retiring. My goodness, how good is that? And I have one more topic that I want to talk about, and this is really, to be honest with you, this is really just you and me. And the topic to talk about is what actually inflation is doing. Now, the triple lock operated by the government has given us a 10% increase going forward into this year, this April. We get a 10% increase in our pensions. That's all great and wonderful. But one of the things that came up in an article I read a couple of days ago was this, and it is that, my goodness me, am I offline? No, I'm not. Yes, I am. One of the things that came up last week, I read an article which I lost and cannot find again, but it says that when you take a different viewpoint on how the inflation is affecting people, old age pensioners, many of whom own their own houses, are actually not being affected quite in the same way as other members of the population. What they're talking about here is OAPs being hit by their two biggest costs, which is their energy and their food and drink, going up more than other things. And what was said in this article is that effectively the general rate of inflation at the moment is somewhere about 10 or 12%, maybe a bit more. But if you just take food and drink and energy, then that level is much higher. We are talking about, ready for this one, 20%. So double what the rise in pensions is going to be is actually been taken in two of the pensioners' prime problems, 20% possibly, maybe less, who knows, of inflation and that's on food and drink and energy. Think about that one. Are we getting a fair deal on 10%? I personally don't think we are. I think in reality, this increase via the triple lock is still going to result in pensioners being more hard up as we go along, regardless of the rise in pension. They're still going to be more hard up than we ever were. Okay, I'm Chris. This is the Old Geezers Show. It's been a bit of a jumble today because I started late, and once you start late, it all goes wrong, doesn't it? But never mind, stick with us, keep in touch, and we'll see where we go next. I'm Chris, this is the Old Geezers Show, and it is Tuesday. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Mind how you go, and don't get into any trouble.